Dear friends, good morning. This will be a talk on nucleus. I believe it will be 9, maybe 9A if I will not finish the topic today. It is quite important topic because so far we were talking all about how nucleus should be, how its philosophy and its housing, economy, children. But we so far didn't talk how this nucleus can be formed. And that will be today's topic. Very pragmatic and in one sense very fundamental. In the other sense, pragmatic and fundamental. Well, to start with, let's start with the people who will be there, and they have to be a group of people who decided to do it. For not just talk about it, that's very nice and entertaining and maybe even inspiring. But after all this talking, they have to decide to do it. How it happens, it's up to these people. I can only add from myself that I don't see a possibility of getting together and reaching unanimously a decision, many decisions which will be necessary, without proper preparing the minds. Well, I suggested the mind wisdom training. That's if people can do it without it, it's perfectly all right. It's not a religion, it's not an obligation, but the unanimity is completely critical. Otherwise, we do something else. So, this group of people have to become friends. I mean, real friends, not Facebook friends. Real friends. They have to realize that they together jump into unknown. They have to leave behind all the habitual patterns which they are, not all, I mean many habitual patterns which they accumulated to create the life they have. One could be an artist, one could be a business person, one could be a teacher, one could be a worker in a pipe fitter, so whatever they are, it will be different. It will be very different and scary. Scary. So they have to feel that they are in it together, not alone, together, that they are a group who wants to do it. And that is completely different feeling. It's some sense of joint synchronization of energy which happens. And that's why I suggested this wisdom training. Whatever it is must be in place. So once they cemented their friendship and their clarity that they want to do it, that is the time to start talking about pragmatics. Because before, talking about pragmatics may not work, because one wants this way, one wants another way, and third wants another way. And there will be infinite things that they will hold to their thing for their life, and the whole thing will be a fiasco. So once they trust each other, trust themselves, trust each other, and have a clear vision what they want to do, is the time to start looking at pragmatics. And pragmatics are not easy unless they are pretty rich and they have enough money to do it. That's great, but that will not be, in many cases will not be, such situation will not arise. So assuming that we do it in this, first of all, I did a lot of research on a minimal costs of establishing a nucleus, which will consist of the house which I more or less described, and the land, and agricultural land, and land for a park for them, because I think it is critically important to be connected with nature, or not for some sentimental reason, but for fundamental reason. That we are in our genes. And the genes has not changed in few thousand years of living in the big cities or small cities. We need to be connected with nature, and that will be extremely healthy mentally and physically. So all in all, a minimal cost which I came up will be a few million euros. It will scare you to death. Well, when you divide it by like 20, 30 people, it's not so scary. No, it's not so scary when you look the price of the house, etc., of cars, and whatever you need in so-called decent civilized life. And I said it will be at least not lower standard than decent civilized life. It's not so much. But how to get this money? Well, the only thing in our capitalistic society, because we don't live in the dreamland, it's not yet wisdom society, it's our globalistic capitalistic society, more or less civilized. So the only place is some sort of lending institution, or a private person who will be willing to invest and be paid back, because it will be paid back. But let's assume it's a bank, or even a private investor, or whomever it is. I have a little bit of experience in this matter, and nobody will give money for such an enterprise if has not properly prepared business plan. Business plan. Maybe some of you haven't heard about it, but you can go to internet, you will find million, even templates how to make a business plan. But the point of business plan, it has to be a clarity what will be, not the format, but what will be, what this, because if you take a loan, you have to have a clear picture for the lender how it will be repaid, and potentially interest paid, whatever. So I will not describe here how to make business plan, but that is the opportunity which I wanted to talk about the subject. in order, this business plan will have to contain the obvious. First of all, it has to be true. It has to be true. I suggest it as a format of cooperative because particularly if it will be called word agriculture, because at that point, not all of you may know, in order to build something, you have to have a building permit and you have to buy land. And agricultural land is much less expensive than so-called already zoned, oh my God, what's the word? Zone residential. In order to be allowed to build on agricultural land, you have to be agriculturalist. So they have to show that they indeed will do, and they have to be truthful, agriculture. That's why it is so critical, because this land is about sometimes 5, sometimes 10 times less expensive than the land residential. So it will be cooperative. Somebody, and no, now is the point. The group has to divide that they have to acquire certain degree of expertise in many subjects. Unless somebody has some expertise, that's great, but if they don't, they have to acquire. Somebody has to know how to talk to the bank, how to make a business plan, excuse me, and negotiate it. Another one, if it's agriculture, have to know enough about agriculture that it could be done. Or maybe 2 people, I don't know. It will be, I'm not giving the details, I'm not imposing anything, I'm only saying that we can learn many things which we never dreamed to do. And I saw example, like I already talked, how without knowing anything with one expert, we build a house. I know that with 2 academics make a business company, and we had no faintest idea how to do it. We did it. We made error not because of that we didn't know, because the market was changing, etc., etc. And many very professionally made companies also collapsed in this period of beginning of software, and very few larger ones survived. So we can learn a lot. We don't need to have that, what I make a very strong point. The degree in this and degree in that and degree. Because most what you learn at the university, like in average 80%, is completely useless. Completely useless. You are stuffed with the facts which you keep to the exam and throw them away. Because they just put garbage to your head, all this memory of this and that. The important thing you can learn without going to the university. Important thing, you can bunch few books, you can take an apprentice stage in somewhere and see how it is done. It's up to the people. I am not an expert in doing. I never, if I have done such, participate in such thing, I will tell more. I am seeing, simply using common sense. Now, since it is 15 minutes, and I am afraid that my YouTube will not like anything which is, I quickly finish. Goodbye.